time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Now, here's Charles Sandegriff.
And we welcome you into another edition of Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Sandegriff, Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. Glad that you are with us today. Chris Rosvoglu from Boot Crew Media. The bottom of the hour, talking New Orleans Saints. Saints take on the Bucs this weekend. Tom Brady missed practice again. Hear anything about that? Is it like was it a veterans rest day, or was it like counseling? Or
yeah, apparently he's just stressed out. Just needed the mental time.
Anybody that's ever been married and has done something against their spouse's wishes understands exactly what's transpiring here. I'll get to that a little bit later. So we'll talk Saints at the bottom of the hour. We'll also talk about LSU and Mississippi State, of course, and that game at Tiger Stadium at 5 o'clock on Friday. Rolling in today. Already seen the RVs out on Thursday morning, so don't let anybody tell you that they're not going to get revved up for this game. And Mike Leach always presents a unique challenge. I figured that I spent just a little bit of time talking yesterday about the State's running game. Okay, they run it. They ran it really well against Arizona. Not as much, against Mississippi, against Memphis. They ran it pretty well. But let's, the obvious thing, and I didn't talk about this yesterday. It's like, well, duh. State's got a really good passing game, in case you didn't know. It breaks some news here. 385 yards a game. Will Rogers has thrown the most touchdown passes of anybody in the Southeastern Conference. He's got a 9-2 touchdown interception ratio. He's averaging just under 8 yards an attempt. Okay, real good. So if you the point I was trying to make yesterday was that's all a given. Mississippi's Mike Leach teams will get their yards through the air come hell or high water, okay? When the season ends, you'll look up and the passing numbers will be there. You might get them in an individual game here or there. My point was that if they can run it too, then they become next to impossible to defend. But on the other side, you've got an LSU team that is still feeling their way offensively. And one of the things that Leach talked about was, having some difficulty kind of scouting LSU because, well, there's so much different personnel. But I wanted to start with the trip. They went out to Arizona last week, and the game ended just in front of 2 a.m. Central Time. I know because I stayed up and watched the whole thing because we were just done with postgame about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before that. This was Leach talking about how it impacted their schedule when they got back.
Just made it a tougher schedule. Just, got in around 10, let everybody go do whatever they had to do until about 4, and then, go sleep or whatever till 4, and then it was kind of dinner and business as usual. So we pushed everything a little later.
I was surprised they did much of anything on Sunday. I figured that when they got in, he would just say, okay, you know what, we're going to scrap everything for the rest of the day. Maybe that's not possible with the way that they do things. But I do remember a trip that we took out to Long Beach with the LSU baseball team back in the early 2000s, and it required getting on a plane to leave New Orleans. You're flying commercial. I know State's you're flying charter, but we got out of New Orleans at like 4:45 in the morning. So to get down there, the whole team kind of got there somewhere around 3:30, 3:45. We took off somewhere between 4:45 and 5 a.m., got out to California, and then coming back, had to take a red eye on Sunday night. Didn't leave L.A. until midnight. Got back to Baton Rouge at about, I would say 8 or 9 in the morning. By the time we flew into New Orleans, got the time change and everything, and then got on the bus and got back to Baton Rouge. And I was worn out, but I was just the announcer. Okay, the team was like, huh, and I remember Smoke coming, in the thing. And, Coach, how you doing? He goes, we'll never do this again. If I were Mike Leach, I'd go in the athletic director's office and say, listen, I don't mind playing out on the West Coast, but I ain't coming home and playing a conference game the next week. Okay? If I got to go out and play Arizona, then the next week I better be playing Abilene Christian in Starkville. There's no way. This is dumb scheduling on whoever in their athletic department does that. You don't go out and play a Power 5 team 2 time zones away, get back at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and then have to leave on Friday to go play a road game in your division. That's just bad planning. And I was surprised that he didn't just kind of, can everything on Sunday and go, okay, get off your feet, everybody go to sleep, get back together. So I don't know. They're young people. You guys are young people. How would you feel about getting back at 10 o'clock in the morning? I know how I would feel. It'd take me till about Wednesday to get right.
Yeah, still not ideal. Maybe a little easier for Taylor than for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it either. I took the day off when I got back from my bachelor trip like a week ago. I took the next day off of work because I needed a day to recover.
You probably were hydrating in a different manner than Mississippi State was. I'm just guessing.
Well, yeah, but, I still needed the recovery day.
No, I get it. And you're on a plane. You're not sleeping. I mean, not sleeping good. You're dozing off. But you're not resting. I don't know how much this is going to impact these guys. They're all very young people. They're in great shape, but I would not have done that. This is not going to be Mike Leach's first time facing Jaden Daniels, however. Daniels was at Arizona State in 2019 when Leach was at Wazoo, and it was a high-scoring game to no kidding with Washington State out there. And Leach talked a little bit about the problems that Daniels caused.
Good player. He's a good player. We played him when he was at Arizona State. Can definitely help himself out with his feet, and his coverage breaks down and he throws it up. You can be in trouble if you don't keep track of him. So sometimes it gives you 2 things to keep track of.
Yeah, I'd say he had a good game. He threw for 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He wasn't bad. Arizona State won that game 38-34. Whole different deal now. This is not Washington State's defense or offense. This isn't Arizona State's offense or defense. I just thought I'd throw that in there, that Daniels has seen Leach's defense, has seen Leach before, and lit him up like nobody's difference, like nobody's business. The LSU defense was something else that Leach talked about.
We have to identify it. We have to be good at identifying it. I thought, last year, we certainly could have won that game. We didn't. But, the biggest thing is react and respond to what they do. But, just keep executing what you do is the most important thing. So I think you want to identify it. You want to kind of pinpoint your package around what you think will be best. And then no matter what happens, execute. Whether you pick the perfect play or not, if you execute it, you still got a chance.
Could have won, probably should have won, if you want to know the truth. LSU won that game 28-25 last year. They had some long, what I would call flukish plays. The one to Trey Palmer in particular that went right at 60 yards and a touchdown was a little bit of a flukish play. The play to Cole Taylor that went for 41 yards and a touchdown was a pretty flukish play. And State outgained LSU pretty significantly. They had almost 500 yards of total offense, but they had a couple of key turnovers, a couple of, I would call them kind of flukish plays for LSU, and the Tigers got home with a win. But when he says they could have won the game, I would tell you that, if you take your purple and gold glasses off for a second, that Mississippi State should have won the game. And 2 years ago in Tiger Stadium, they did win the game and passed all over LSU like the defensive backs had just, come back from a nap. So I don't in any way subscribe to the idea this is a game that LSU should be favored to win, and that's why they're not. Vegas has got Mississippi State as a favorite, even though this game is in Tiger Stadium. But he's going to have to identify what LSU is doing differently defensively this year as opposed to last year. You got a whole new deal. Not at all disappointed to see LSU do all those different things with Harold Perkins last week. And that'll be at least things that State has seen on film. And I'm wondering if the young man may not have a role in the game on Saturday. Maybe some kind of specialized deal is like, hey, we're going to turn you loose here, because he's a real talent. Finally, Leach talked about trying to beat LSU for his team.
Well, they're kind of similar teams. They're kind of older too. So, well, I guess we're kind of old on defense, and we're not very old on offense. We got some experience, but I think both teams are kind of similar that way. You just got to beat LSU because they're the next guy who's on the schedule, and I mean, they're all important, and you only get one of them a week, so give them all your full attention.
Teams aren't anything like each other. They are as different as purple and gold and maroon and white, as different as Baton Rouge and Starkville, as different as Kelly and Leach. They are in no way similar. LSU doesn't run anything close to what State runs on offense. State doesn't run anything close to what LSU runs on defense. They are in no ways similar. LSU is not an old team. They've got some upperclassmen, but a lot of them didn't start at LSU, and none of them have played for Brian Kelly the past 2 games. They both have experienced quarterbacks, but the experienced quarterback for Mississippi State has been within their system. The experienced quarterback for LSU got his experience somewhere else and is trying to work in with this system, and is doing a terrific job, by the way. I guess it's just something you say, because in no way are these teams similar. But Leach is always good for a chuckle or two.
He seemed a lot more excited at SEC Media Days.
There's a lot less pressure. At Media Days, there's no game to prepare for. You haven't lost any games yet. And at this point, they haven't lost any games either. I like to have been a fly on the wall when he went in the athletic director's office. Arizona? Then we got to go to LSU? Really? Are we trying to increase the degree of difficulty here? We'll take a break. Again, Chris Rosvoglu at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk Saints and the Bucs. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Yeah, we love the guys out at Big Mike's. This weekend, again, starting really tonight, because it's karaoke tonight plus Clarence the Entertainer for the music lineup out on Aspen Boulevard. Tomorrow night, it's Jared Kelly. And on Saturday, the LSU game on at 5, and then Titanium Rain playing following the game. It's always a festive atmosphere at Big Mike's. If you're going out for high school football tomorrow night, you want to get something to eat after the game, they're always open late. It's family friendly, so you can bring the kids in, eat in the restaurant part. If you want to go over the adults want to go for the live music over in the bar, that's okay. Happy hour 3 to 7 Monday through Saturday. And then if you're a Saints fan, on Sundays, happy hour prices all day long at Big Mike's. And they got a special event coming up on October the 7th when the Saints play the Vikings over in London. They're going to open at 8 a.m. Bloody Marys, bottomless mimosas, happy hour all day, chicken and waffles, and a special breakfast burger that they're doing for the occasion. Part of the fabric of Denham Springs, it's Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill. At Big Mike's, kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off MSRP on a new 2021 Ford F-150. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million-mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There's nothing better than tailgating, but it can be a lot of work. So why do it yourself when you don't have to? Let Revelry Sports and Entertainment set up your luxury tailgate on campus. Order what you want and just show up to party. Book your tailgate today at Revelry.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Mike Triplett will join us to talk Saints. Our Fantasy Blitz returns, and we'll take a closer look at Mississippi State. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's kind of mellow.
You think?
Yeah, it's kind of mellow. That's okay.
I would describe it more like chill.
Chill, yeah. Mellow, okay. It's kind of a mellow segment we got coming up, I guess. Maybe it's set the mood. So, like everybody else that either plays fantasy football or wagers on football or does both, when the NFL injury report comes out, I pay attention. These things are kind of important. And it's going through, and it's a pretty lengthy list for both Tampa and for New Orleans. But, you know, they put on the side, right, what your injury is, and whether you're, you know, doubtful or whatever. Tom Brady missed practice yesterday, and in the little parentheses where they would, you know, normally put knee, shoulder, hamstring, put non-football related. Really? What could that be? The plumber was coming to fix the toilet in the back bathroom, and he had to stay home to open the door. Probably not. So, listen, I don't ever want to talk about players' personal lives because that's private. As long as it stays private, okay? If it stays private, it's none of my business, okay? Your marriage, your kids, to me, all of that's off limits as long as it's private, okay? It becomes public when you got to come out and say, I'm leaving camp for 2 weeks, and then, you know, it's sort of fair game because now your private life is affecting your professional life, and, well, it's our job to analyze these things. So I'm no marriage counselor, don't want to be one, but I think, you know, it's been reported enough places that Tom Brady's wife, Giselle, by the way, she's the only wife's name of any player in the NFL that I know. And the only reason I know that is because she's famous. I don't know who the players' wives are. I don't care. It's none of my business. And like I said, family to me has always been off limits. Unless unless there's some kind of domestic thing that you're arrested on, and then you got to talk about, you know, how that's affecting the team. And in this case, the guy, you know, had to leave camp for 2 weeks, and now he's leaving practices for presumably the same thing, which as near as anybody can tell is because his wife doesn't want him to play football anymore. Okay. Tom Brady does not need very much football practice, if at all. His teammates, it would be nice to have that guy in there, and it certainly didn't seem to bother Tampa in week number 1 at all. And they dusted Dallas like nobody's business. And if Julio Jones is going to play like he did the other night, that's going to be a problem for Tampa's opponents, because Julio Jones looked like the Julio Jones from about 4 years ago. May not be able to do it for 17 weeks. Probably won't be able to do it for 17 weeks. But if he can just do that some of the time, Tampa's going to be a problem. But let me get back to Brady, because let me tell you what this is. What this is starting to look like is, this to me looks very much like Rocky and Adrian. Did you watch the Rocky movies? You guys watch the Rocky movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So the first Rocky movie, Rocky and Adrian meet, and they fall in love, and he's, just gets this once-in-a-lifetime shot to go, and, the tagline of the movie is his whole life was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. So Adrian's not crazy about him fighting, but they just met, and they just fell in love, and this is this is his shot. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, okay, the Rocky movies are all hideously old, so I think you've all seen them. But at the end of the movie, she goes in the ring. I love yous too, and that's great, okay. But from the very beginning of the second movie, I mean the very beginning, from the opening credits all the way through the end of movie 5, which was not very good. Every one of those movies has a central theme. Rocky wants to fight, and Adrian doesn't want him to fight. And the turning point in all of the movies, pretty much, 2, 3, 4, and 5, is that point in the movie where Adrian says, okay, Rocky, it's okay to go ahead and fight. And he gets all fired up, and Adrian signs off on this, and, this is all good. So they do the 5 Rocky movies, right? And then Stallone decides he's got to do another one for reasons passing understanding, because 5 was not good and 6 was worse. The one they didn't call it Rocky 6. They called it Rocky Balboa, because, Rocky 6 would be like redundant or something, right? So Rocky gets into the 6th movie, and they send the script to the studio. Wait, we got this idea. Rocky's in his 50s now, and we're going to bring him back to fight. But wait, get this. Adrian won't be on board. Adrian won't want Rocky to fight. And then at some point, she'll decide Rocky can fight, and Rocky will go fight. And thankfully, somebody at the studio said, you know what? You guys have run that out 4 times. We're going to hold up on that. We're not going to let you run the same script again. So what did they do? They said, well, does this mean we're not going to make the movie? Hell no. People still buy tickets to go see Rocky movies. We'll just write her out. And they did. They wrote her out of the movie. They wrote her out of the series. They came back and they did 2 more movies with the Creed movies. And the Creed movies were actually pretty good, especially the first one. It was actually really good. But they wrote her out, okay, of the script. Why? Because Rocky was going to fight no matter what. He loved his wife. You can see that in the films, but he couldn't unplug that. I'm a fighter. Okay. This is Brady and Giselle. Giselle has made her feelings known going way back. And I've never met either one of them, never been in the same room with either one of them. She doesn't talk publicly very much. If she does, it's in her line of work and not in the sports field. And yet she has still managed to make it known, I don't want Tom to play. Tom is ignoring his responsibilities at home. And I'm thinking, what are Brady's responsibilities at home? Between the 2 of them, they're worth over $1 billion probably. I'm thinking that, he's not taking out the trash on Tuesdays. But I don't live with them, and I don't live next door to them, so I don't know. All I know is that it looks like it's at that point in the deal where they're about to write Giselle out because Tom's going to play football whether she wants him to or not. Tell me you couldn't see this coming. Because when she's made her feelings known, nonverbal feel. She's getting this out in the media. I don't think she meant to, but it's getting out in the media now that, hey, Tom needs to come home. Tom's not ready to come home. the Rocky movies were pretty predictable, right? Whenever Adrian wasn't on board, then Rocky didn't do real well. And as soon as Adrian signed off on it, Rocky was really good. The movies were incredibly predictable, right? The Creed movies were better, I thought, than the last couple of Rocky movies for sure. I mean, the second Creed movie, you could kind of see where it was going to, all right? But they put a Russian in there, so, whenever you got Russian bad guys, the thing tends to work. I mean, that was why Rocky IV, which was not, anything different than what he had done in the other movies, what did they do? They made the Russian the bad guy. This was at the height of the Cold War. If you wanted to make a successful piece of movie making or music making or pretty much anything in the 80s, all you had to do was make the Russians the bad guys. Was real easy. Okay? So they made the Russian the bad guy at the height of the Cold War, and everybody loved the movie. It grossed more than the other movies, and the other movies were better, especially the first one. But the fourth one grossed the most. Why? Because you made the Russian the bad guy. They made this movie in the 80s called Red Dawn. It was about 6 teenagers that took on the entire Soviet army and won for like 6 months. And everybody thought that was great. It was realistic. Yes, these 6 high school kids are taking on the Soviets, but they're winning. They love this. They tried to remake the movie about 10 years ago. They substituted the North Koreans for the Russians. It didn't work nearly as well. Tom has decided that he is going to play football whether Giselle wants him to or not. How this affects Tampa is all I'm really concerned about. I wish them nothing but success and happiness. I'll send them a gravy boat on their anniversary. But for the meantime, I can't help but think how this affects the football team. Because Adrian hasn't signed off on Rocky fighting here. And the other night, as smothering as the Tampa defense was on Dallas, whose offense is a hot mess, the Tampa offense left a lot of points on the field the other night. It was all field goals in that first half, and they threatened a lot, but they bogged down in the red zone. Anyway, I just saw that on the injury report and decided to tell a Rocky story. Bear with me. We'll talk about the Saints football game when we come back. Chris Rosvoglu from Boot Crew Media. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I am Juliette, daughter of Marguerite, granddaughter of Gabriel Piera. I come from a line of strong women. Women who knew struggle and success too. Still, I was scared by my breast cancer diagnosis. But I had Blue Cross coverage, which meant I got care from top doctors. I'm strong like my mother, and her mother before her. The right card, the right care.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Thursday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're downtown at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar on north facing Town Square. Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time, your sports break during your lunch break with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Saints and the Bucks, noon on Sunday at the Dome. Chris Rosvoglu from Boot Crew Media joins us now. Boot Crew, KREWE Media.com for lots of great coverage on the Saints and also the Pelicans. We'll be talking with these guys a lot. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's talk about the game against Atlanta because the comeback has gotten all of the attention, Chris, and rightfully so. It was the biggest Saints fourth quarter comeback. It's a division rival on the road, and I get all of that. But probably the most surprising thing to me about this game was how for three quarters the Atlanta Falcons really took care of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and that's not something that I would have expected going into this game. So while the win was good, talk to me about what you saw and why New Orleans was taken to the woodshed in the trenches for the first three quarters.
Yeah, you talk about that, and that's a major concern. In the trenches, the Saints were overpowered for most of this game, and on the offensive side of the football, I think the two concerns were the first one being Cesar Ruiz having no answer for Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett had his way with Cesar Ruiz throughout the day, 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles. He played great. And as for the left side of the line, Hurst just struggled with anything that was getting thrown at him. Didn't matter if it was a bull rush, didn't matter if it was a speed rush. He struggled throughout the game, and even on the final drive where the Saints ended up getting in field goal position, Jameis Winston had to make that throw to Jarvis Landry with a hand in his face because Hurst was giving up pressure on that. So that would be a concern that I think carries over into week 2, week 3, week 4 until the Saints prove that they can solve that. As for the defensive side of the football, up the middle, they were just getting killed by that offensive attack of the Falcons in that rushing game. And whether it was Cordell Patterson, whether it was Marcus Mariota, they just ran up and down the field. And I think for the Saints, part of that could be the fact that you do have to account for Mariota running out and that read option that they can do. And that's something at least the Saints won't have to worry about against a Tom Brady-led Buccaneers attack. But that was a definite concern. And the fact that we talk about this defensive line for so many years, not giving up 100-yard rushers, doing such a good job of that, to give up over 120-plus to Patterson, for me, that's a really big concern. And now it begs the question of, can guys like Onyemata, guys like Kentavious Street, Shy Tuttle, can they really step up over the next couple of weeks? That's going to be a big thing. And maybe for the Saints, the return of Malcolm Roach later this year kind of solves that problem. But for now, it's definitely a concern.
Let me flip back onto the offensive side of the ball. Do you think that this was a bad matchup for New Orleans' offensive line, Ruiz on Jarrett in particular, or is this a real cause of concern moving forward? Okay. Did we lose? Okay. Let me see what happened there. Jarrett, like he said, had the 6 tackles. He had a sack and a half. He had a tackle for loss. But more importantly, he was just moving people back. He was moving Ruiz back, and you get a mixed opinion on Cesar Ruiz moving forward. Whereas the Saints have invested heavily in this offensive line, and they have gone to second contracts with 3 of the 5 members already on that line. And then the 4th member was supposed to be Trevor Penning, who was a first-round pick this year. Ruiz, you sort of get a mixed bag on. There have been times where he has played really well, but other times where he has been really he was dominated for most of this game on Sunday. I wasn't wild about the pick when they made it. I sort of came around to it, but then, there are times where you look at it, I'm not sure that this is going to work long term against some of the better players in the league. So as we get him back on, I'll ask about that. And then we'll flip over and talk about the Saints defensive line. But Chris, again, do we think that this was a bad matchup, or is this a real problem specifically with Ruiz moving forward?
I think for Ruiz, I would say it's a little bit of both, right? Because I thought he showed a lot of improvement in the preseason and during training camp, and that led me to say, okay, cautiously optimistic to week 1. To that part, though, you talk about a bad matchup. Grady Jarrett, when he's playing at his high level, that's a Pro Bowl caliber defensive lineman, so we could definitely make that argument. But you look at this Bucs defensive line that's coming to town, whether it's Logan Hall, Akeem Hicks, what they can offer on the outside too as well. I think it's one of those that I'm more so leaning towards being concerned than I would be saying it's just a bad matchup, because unfortunately we haven't really seen Ruiz put consistently good performances together. So I'm more so on the concern side of things.
Let's talk about the Saints' run game, because both Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara got dinged up a little bit in this game. They brought Latavius Murray in this week. What do you know about availability at this point, still 3 days to game time?
Yeah, for Alvin Kamara, at this point, it's one of those situations where I think if it's a real game where, let's say it's a playoff game, he's definitely playing no doubt in his mind. For the Saints, are just going to continue to monitor that rib injury of his and see if he'll be ready to go. And as for Ingram, I think it's more so at this point of the Saints kind of monitoring his status as well. He's a veteran at this point. You got to kind of take it easy. I feel pretty good about Ingram playing at this point. I also think that as of now, Kamara is probably trending with the arrow going up, but look, it all depends with the rib injury, how it feels. These things can really, take a turn for the worse at a moment's notice. So I think for the Saints, bringing in a guy like Murray, it's a good insurance policy. In the event that Kamara or Ingram can't play, you can plug this guy right into an offense that he already knows. So I think for the Saints, they'll have at least one of their top 2 running backs in there. Whether or not they'll have both, I would love to see how everything plays out in practice today before we kind of get to that point. But hopefully for the Saints, they'll have both of them out there. Kamara, obviously, so much of the offense runs through him.
So those were the issues for 3 quarters. But in the 4th quarter, when the Saints obviously it picked up the tempo and Atlanta certainly helped, it looked like the offense that we were hoping to see all along. Jameis Winston attacking down the field. He got, some terrific play out of his wide receivers, specifically the big catch by Jarvis Landry. And if you're watching the game on Sunday, I think the temptation is to say, where has this been all game? So in your opinion, where was that the rest of the game?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and, I talked about it all week, I thought the play calling through the first 3 quarters was super predictable, and it didn't really do the Saints offense any favors. They went run heavy first and second down, and that would get them in a situation where it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, and then on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, we would see Jameis Winston end up getting sacked, whether it was him holding the ball too long or the offensive line giving up an early pressure up the middle, and that really put them in tough spots. So outside of Taysom Hill, the first 3 quarters, nothing really worked for the Saints offense. And I think once they got in that point where they knew that we can't really go with a run, we got to go pass heavy throughout the rest of the day, that allowed Jameis to, 1, get in a rhythm, And two, it also kind of slowed down that Falcons defense. You give them a lot of time to regroup every play when the Saints are running their offense with a pretty slow tempo. So I think for them, it's a matter of, does Pete Carmichael think what worked in the fourth quarter was a product of prevent defense and just a magical run, or does he think that this is something that they can sustain moving forward? And if that's the answer, and he's leaning towards the latter part, I think for New Orleans, like you said, throwing the ball a little bit more, kind of spreading them out, and using your three playmakers at wide receiver who all stepped up late in the fourth quarter, I think that would bode well for them. So I think it's more of that, got to get more quick passes out there. Saints did that a little bit with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, so I'd like to see that a bit more. And hopefully with week 2 coming up, we'll see that. It won't take 3 quarters for the Saints offense to get going, so we'll see what happens. But I would say the play calling, too much predictability early on.
Our guest is Chris Rosvoglu from Boot Crew Media. Let's flip sides and talk about that Saints defensive front. It was an offense that obviously has a mobile quarterback, and Mariota did his damage on the ground as well, but they won't have to worry about that this week. The quarterback's not terribly mobile, but watching Leonard Fournette drag the Dallas Cowboys for about 130 yards on Sunday night has to give the Saints defensive coaches a lot of pause. So what can they get fixed in from week 1 to week 2 as far as run defense? Because this has been the backbone of New Orleans' team for the last 3 seasons, is that rush defense.
Yeah, I think part of it is the mobility part that they don't have with Tom Brady, which is good. And I think for them, when Mariota's handing off the ball to Patterson, there's always that kind of added threat of, is it an option? Is he rolling out? And that kind of makes your defensive ends a little bit hesitant. They can't crash down and help out with the play. Not having to worry about that should help a little bit, albeit I thought Leonard Fournette, as you mentioned, was spectacular on Sunday night against the Cowboys. And I think for them, maybe getting Passanio in. He was inactive in week 1. Maybe he's active this week and gives them that versatile defensive lineman that they could use in there. I also think defensive linemen like Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan need to step up early week 1. Maybe they just were knocking off the rust of not getting many snaps in the preseason. That could have been a possibility. So I think that will definitely help. And that probably goes for the whole defense. I think not really getting a lot of time in the preseason. The benefit is you don't risk injury, but the downside is they'll take a week or 2 for them to get back in that game action where they're not missing tackles and they're not missing their assignments. So I think that added into will also help. And I think for New Orleans, a big part of this, why I'll feel a little bit more comfortable about the run defense going into Sunday, is that they know the blueprint for Tampa Bay because they've done it the last couple of years. Shut the run down early, make them a passing team. And when you do that and you know that the run game's not working for Tampa Bay, it allows you to just rush your 4 after Brady, let the rest of the 7 drop back in coverage, and that's what they've been so successful with. So I think considering Dennis Allen kind of created the blueprint, as long as he sticks to it, I think they'll be a little bit more successful against that run.
Paulson Adebo still absent. First of all, what are you hearing about his prospects for Sunday? And secondly, how did you think they shuffled in the secondary without him last week?
Yeah, so the Paulson Adebo situation is pretty interesting. I talked about it over the weekend with John Hendricks, also with Boot Crew Media, and we were thinking about the fact that he should have been or should be on the mend for week 2, and maybe that'll change. Maybe he'll participate in practice later this Thursday and Friday, and then he'll be ready to go. But it was one of those injuries where the assumption was he misses week 1, but he'll be ready for week 2. And after not seeing him on, practicing on Wednesday, that's obviously not a great sign. So hopefully it wasn't a setback. It's just a situation where he needs a couple more days of rest before he's ready to go, whether it's week 2 or week 3. But as far as the shuffling in the secondary, I think there were times where Bradley Roby struggled a little bit against the Falcons. I didn't think he played particularly bad. I just think that when you're playing throughout the training camp session at that slot position and then all of a sudden you get kicked back outside the corner, I think that's a little bit different, and there were some adjustments that needed to be made there. But I think you saw a lot of positives from a couple of players. I thought that Justin Evans, the former Tampa Bay Buck, I thought he played extraordinarily well for a guy that's been out of the league for a couple of seasons and is coming on the way back from that injury that he suffered then. So I thought he looked particularly well in the slot. Maybe that's something the Saints will do more of. I think Marcus May, in terms of his aggressive nature and his tackling style, we saw him, whether it was on run plays or even forcing the fumble on Marcus Mariota. He really brought that aggressive nature that the Saints want in their secondary, and I thought there were plays where Marshawn Lattimore stood out. I know Lattimore, the big talk is about the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, but if you look at the next-gen numbers that he had, another standout day for him, and he made it a big point of emphasis of locking down Kyle Pitts and making sure the Saints were aware of where the star tight end was at all times. So considering Adebo was out and they got rid of Gardner Johnson and the days of Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins weren't there, I thought the Saints did a fine job, but it was also against a weaker receiving core. I'd like to see if they could follow that up with a good performance against the Bucs.
Let me ask you to play psychologist here for a second because you're around the team a lot. They went to Atlanta where they've had a lot of success and won without playing anywhere close to their best football. This team that they're playing, they have beaten 4 out of 5 since Tom Brady's gotten there. Unfortunately, the one they lost was in the playoffs. So what do you think the mindset of this team is coming off of that comeback win, but, you almost feel like you got away with one?
Yeah, so it's kind of, for the Saints, you do feel like you got away with one in the sense that for 3 quarters, you're not the better football team, clearly, and you're almost assuming when you're down 16 points with 12 minutes left that you're probably going into week 2 0-1. But the way they pulled it out and the way they've talked about it, it's more so them saying what you saw in the last 12 minutes is what that team can be. Like, that's the ceiling for a team of this talent, and I think that's certainly possible. I know the Saints definitely feel lucky that they got out of week 1, but I think for them, it's finding a way to make those last 12 minutes a more full game plan. And when you play a team against the Bucs where the energy is going to be high, I mean, the Saints fans, Bucs fans can argue whether or not this is an actual rivalry, but I'm telling you, the players they get amped for this one particularly. There's an added edge ever since Tom Brady went to the Bucs, and I think for this matchup, given their history, given the fact that both teams are 1-0 heading into this one, and they have the chance to start off 2-0 in division, the energy's high for this one. And I think for the Saints, particularly on defense, they knew they were going to start this season off on the strongest note. A lot of shuffling in the secondary. Marcus Davenport missed some time with an injury earlier this year. Cam Jordan's a year older. They're still trying to figure out the interior of the defensive line. So, it's one of those situations where you're glad you got a win in week 1 despite not playing your best football, but you can really take it up a notch. And I think on the defensive side of the football, that's what they're hoping to do in week 2. I think the offense feels good about the playmakers they have and being able to generate points, but I'm really eager to see what the defense does. That this is the type of week that they talk up a big game, and usually they show out against Tom Brady and the Bucs. So we'll see if they can keep that going.
If you want to know where you are in the division, get a schedule like the Saints has this year. The 2 teams that are predicted to finish at the bottom of the division, the Falcons and Panthers, you get on the road. The team that's picked to finish at the top is the Bucs. You get them at home. You ought to know where you are after week 3, Chris, as far as the division goes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's why, for the Saints, you can't picture a more perfect start for them if they were to win this Bucs game. You start off 2-0. You got the Panthers traveling to a Giants team that actually looks improved. You got the Falcons versus a Rams team that wants to rebound from a tough opening loss. This is an absolute golden opportunity for the Saints to start off this Dennis Allen tenure on a strong note. And if you can rip off 2-3 division wins in a row to kick off the season, I really can't envision a better start for this squad.
Go to bootcrewmedia.com. Chris Voglu taking the New Orleans Saints. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Saints and the Bucs at noon on Sunday. You can hear it on Eagle 98.1. We'll take a break. Get your questions in the YouTube chat. We'll do that when we return. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
I've spent probably the better part of the last 2 decades buying my vehicles at Acura and Infiniti of Baton Rouge. When you get a pre-owned vehicle from Infiniti of Baton Rouge, the benefits are numerous. Let me tell you some of the ones I like the best. First of all, it's complimentary first-year basic maintenance. And this is after a 167-point inspection, so you're going to be getting a quality vehicle. Complimentary service vehicle every time you've got to take it in for service. You don't want to sit around and wait for your vehicle. You don't want to have to somebody drop you off and pick you back up. It's a really, really nice feature that they've got. Right now at Infiniti of Baton Rouge, on the pre-owned lot, there is ample inventory. So don't worry about some of the inventory crunches that you've heard about. It's not happening at Infiniti of Baton Rouge. And with your pre-owned vehicles, you get up to a 6-year unlimited mileage warranty. It's transparency in their sales. Prices you see are the prices you're going to pay. It's a hassle-free sale. They're going to treat you like family, just like they've done with me at Infiniti of Baton Rouge.
This week on DropBiscuit.com or wherever you listen to podcasts is our new series, Pops, the Louis Armstrong story. Pops is brought to you by New Orleans & Company. Check out NewOrleans.com and come visit New Orleans.
ITI's got all these programs. Once I started and learned everything about the school, it was worth it.
The challenges that ITI presented me with, it allowed me to build myself up.
All because of ITI, I actually was able to get a job within 3 months before graduation in my field.
Get the hands-on training you need for the job you've always wanted. With so many companies hiring right now, it's the perfect time to come to ITI Technical College. Enroll today for a better life.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Ram Black Widow trucks in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
In the prep football season, and we get you started Friday night at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Catholic High and U High kick off at 7, and that's immediately followed by the Lake Urgent Care Lake After Hours Louisiana Prep School Board Show on YouTube, Your View, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny time. Grab some lunch and tune in on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, ask Hanny in the YouTube chat. How many games does Brian Harsin have to win to keep his job this year? So I'm going to say 8 with this little asterisk. Wins against Alabama or Georgia count double. How's that? Actually, wins against Alabama might count triple. So 8. But they want to get rid of him. If they could have gotten rid of him last year, they wanted to get rid of him. So it's a matter of time. But if he were to beat Alabama or Georgia or win 8 games, I think they'd probably keep him around. How many SEC coaches will get fired this year? Man, you guys are circling already, huh? It's week 3, and you're already. I don't think besides Harsin anybody's in any real danger except for Eli Drinkwitz. He would be the only other one at Missouri. I think everybody else is probably safe, barring something really bizarre. What's my favorite part of tailgating? It's been a minute since I've been tailgating, but I'll tell you what. My favorite, look, the food and the drinks and the camaraderie and all that stuff. You know what's really fun at LSU tailgating? When you've got a night game, okay, and the afternoon game is something that's really important to LSU. Like, say, LSU were playing Texas A&M at night, and the Iron Bowl was at 2:30, okay? And the Iron Bowl is coming down to a last drive or a last kick or something like that. And all of the fans are huddled around these tents, okay? Everybody's trying to find a spot to watch the game that's going on that means something to LSU. Maybe it means a berth in a championship game or something like that. I've certainly watched enough Iron Bowls over the years that meant something like that. And then, the entire crowd is into it for the same reason. And then if the result goes LSU's way, everybody kind of glides into the stadium, man. It's like everybody's relieved, fired up. It's just like, getting a little bit extra right there at the beginning. Who's tougher, Mississippi State or Florida State? If Mississippi State and Florida State were playing this Saturday, I would favor the Bulldogs. From Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt and Hill, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.